All right. Good morning, guys. Let's get rocking. Hey, just as a quick reminder, I know it was out there on the announcements. I got to look at my own schedule here real quick. But we have got, as you know, we have our summit today. And couldn't be more excited about it. But it is at 2 p.m. Utah time, which would be 1 p.m. California time. And it is going to be a great summit. We got Mr. Sam Bell speaking to us. And yours truly. And I have been preparing for nearly 2 weeks for this summit. And I am excited to be able to share what we've got going. So with that, I love all the gratitudes, love all the intentions, love seeing it, guys. I'm going to bring in Mr. Josh Johnson. And it's going to be a great time with this good man. I'm going to ask him to unmute. All right, he's got to unmute. So Josh, are you there?
Okay, I'm here.
There you are.
Nap on the couch
What is up,
with
man?
that easy listening, man. That was some.
That's right. Don't fall asleep on me. All right. Hey, you're looking pretty ripped there, man.
Thank you.
All right.
You want it on my arms? Is that where you want it?
Oh, man. I don't know if anybody's going to take us serious because you're one of my favorite people to talk to, man. You always make me laugh. All right.
Is there a little glow on my head right now?
There's a little bit of a glow. It's all right. It's because of your holiness. You are a good man, right?
Thank you. I am.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. All right. Hey, so look, you have such a great history, man. I love hearing your story right from the get-go of your career. I know you've shared it, but gosh, we've got guys and gals on this call all the way from California to Utah. We've got even guests from other different companies. And in fact, one of my favorite things is the fact that a lot of people don't know this, but my birth father now is a licensed real estate agent with Century 21 Select in Placerville, California. And also my newest brother-in-law, Mark Huber, is also, which I guess you'd be my half sister, even though I don't refer her to that as ever, but who I just found only a year and a half ago, he is also now an agent, took one of his first listings last week. Over there in Placerville also. So, which if you don't know where Placerville is, that's just a little bit south of Lake Tahoe. So we got a good crowd for you, Josh. We got some good people on for you.
I like
it. All right.
it.
So here's the deal. I want to ask you a ton of stuff, right? I mean, the market's white hot. You got lots of stuff happening. You have had such an incredible run and journey to your career. I have always appreciated our conversations, even when they've been one-on-one and whether it be in a group setting. I know you're always so authentic, you're so real and so honest with the realities of what it takes to succeed in this business. And you're not the guy who just walked into the business and had instant success, but you really have a great story. So if you could, first and foremost, you're a top 10 team in the world for Century 21. You've got now today, how many people on your team?
Well, we got 15 full-timers. We got 5 part-timers.
All right. So you basically got nearly 20 people on your team. You have a full-time assistant, right?
Yep.
And then how long have you been doing this business?
I've been doing it about 18 years.
All right. So it's almost like a real job.
It's pretty dang close. It's getting there.
Right. So with that being said, though, take us through your first times, because look, there's not only people on your own team, but man, there's so many people that are just starting out, right? I mean, just like my brother-in-law is just starting out. He comes from the insurance world. My father's been in the business of real estate for years, but then there's also all these other agents that are out there working their hearts out and trying to figure it out, right? And there's a great system within Everest. But the cool part is that as you talk about what I know you did, it pretty much matches a lot of the stuff that we talk about and the things that we deeply believe in. So talk just a little bit about your entry into this business and how you got your start and how you went about going about the business early on.
Okay, I can do that. This is a good story, so everybody listen in. So,
all right.
What has been, you've been in the industry how long, George? You've been in 25 years?
26 years, just July.
First off, let's make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah. I'm in my prime though, man. I'm in my prime.
He is in his prime. So I got in 18 years ago. When I got in, I started with a company you guys might have heard of, Exit Realty. When I went in there, I literally went in, didn't know anything about real estate. And I'm like, so what do you do when you go in there? And everybody kind of looked at me and they're like, well, you pay for marketing, you call for sale by owners, you do expired listings, stuff like that. And I got on the phone, and I'm not a guy that likes to sit still. I like to be up and moving. And so I started calling these for sale by owners, and I hated it. Expireds, hated it. And so I went and talked to
That was on
another.
the phone, right? So you're
Yeah, I
calling
was
them on the phone.
yeah, but I was sitting down the whole time. So now everywhere I go, I'm like right now, I'm standing up. Are you standing up, George?
I'm standing up, man. Like,
Okay.
look at me, man.
Okay. When you
I need to get the treadmill underneath my my desk here. I know that one of our great coaches with ESS, Kathleen Bruno, she has her treadmill in there when she's prospecting.
and I think that's so smart. When you make your calls, you're normally standing as well, right?
Always.
Okay.
Every coaching call, every morning meeting, every recruiting call, every single prospecting call for 20 something years, I've stood up.
Yeah. And I think that was part of it too.
Except for when I first, just like you, right? When I first started, I did not. And then I realized there's a huge energy shift that happens when you stand up.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's why I got into knocking doors, is because of I'm always moving. I'm going somewhere. I'm talking to new people. Even now when I make calls, I've got in my office, there's like a round that I do in here. And so when I'm on the phone, I'm literally walking around in this office. And the only time I'm sitting down at my desk is if I'm meeting with somebody. I don't know if it's like a nervous titch or what it is, but it helps me think, and I'm always moving.
Yeah, and it's your energy, man. You elevate the energy. So talk about, okay, so you're on, but go back. You're on the phones, and it wasn't flying the right way. I guess I presume it wasn't working really well from the standpoint of sitting down and just calling those people initially.
Yeah.
And so then what ended up happening?
Well, you got to think back then there was no teams either. So you were just solo. You got in and they were like, here's a book of scripts, but they didn't really teach you that much. I mean, I don't think they taught you that much when you first got in either, right?
No.
It was mostly just, here you go sell real estate. There was nothing to it as far as them teaching you anything. And so,
well, and today, as you know, Josh, we've got it at 7:15 every morning. I know it's early for our California friends, but at 6:15 their time is you've got Rick Bentley and Ruby Batia, and they do an amazing job of leading through role plays and practicing scripts, dialogues, presentations, closing scripts, working with buyers, sellers, lead follow-up. I mean, man, I'd encourage people to get involved in that.
who does the Everest training that you have to pass the test? I forgot his name.
Russ.
Russ.
Well, there's Russ Orchard too. Then there's Russ, who also does the new agent training. That's an ongoing series where you literally graduate from the program.
Well, and so I've been sending all my guys to that because it's amazing. Russ is amazing at that. And it takes a lot of weight off me to have someone that actually helps my guys actually do well in this business, you know? So it's nice to have something like that to lean on, where back in the day it was nothing. So I literally went, I don't even know. I served a 2-year mission, so I knocked doors a lot. But when I got in there, they're like, well, you can pay for leads. I'm like, I have zero money. I'm like 22 years old, just married, have a house. I have zero money. I'm like, I can't pay for leads. And then one guy came in, he says, well, go try to knock doors. And I thought, I can knock doors. And so they gave me this weird script that wasn't even the right script. I went out and started knocking doors. And I finally went to a guy by the name of Bill Nasby. Bill Nasby he taught knocking doors for years. Went and saw him, actually got a good script to go off of. And then I just started knocking. It took me 6 months though before I closed my first deal. So from the day I started to the day that I actually closed, my first deal was a mobile home, and I made $250 on it. And so it was hard because back then I literally had nothing. I mean, I remember me and my wife sitting down chatting, and I'm like, honey, I'm gonna have to go ask my dad for money to pay the house payment, because she was a dental hygienist, and she was making money, but not enough to pay the bills.
Right.
And that first deal was a mobile home. I'm like, well, that's not going to pay the bills either.
That's so funny. You know, we talked about this. My first deal was mobile home, and your wife worked as a dental hygienist. My wife's dad was a dentist, and she didn't work in his dental office, but she worked in a dental office.
Wow.
I love it.
I mean, you just
come from great stock, man. You got a great story. Yeah.
Just look good. You need to shave your head, George.
That's right. I did get a new haircut yesterday, though, man. High and tight.
It looks good. So here's the cool part, George. Right after that, so I closed my $250 deal mobile home, which was a nightmare. The deal right after that, I closed. It was maybe a week or two after. It was a nicer home, and I made $2,367.38. And that right there, I never made that much in a check before. And so when I saw that check come in, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can actually make money at this. And on that deal, it was probably one of the easiest deals I ever did. And I went showing them a couple of homes, and then they just bought it. It was crazy. And so my normal checks were like $900. And so when I see an over $2,000 check, I'm like, I am the richest man alive right now. I can make my house payment for 2 months and I'm good. That's what was going through my head.
Sure.
So after that, it just never stopped. I mean, I just kept knocking and kept persisting.
So
And
give us a perspective to your schedule early on. Like, I
yeah,
love it. My cousin just sent me a business card of an agent who was knocking doors from Everest, and talked about how cool it was that even in today's market, seeing a guy out there hustling and doing his thing, and being respectful but being assertive. And I love the fact that this young man was out there knocking doors. Talk a little bit about the schedule that you followed. Like, what did that look like for many, many years as to how you built your business right from the ground up?
yeah. So when I first got in the business, and you guys might have done deals with this guy. His name's Troy Hodell. He's in the industry. Last year, he closed 111 deals in 1 year. The guy is phenomenal. If you can sit down and talk to him, he's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And me and him got in the business at the exact same time. And I was knocking doors. He hated knocking doors. And so me and him would hold each other accountable every morning. And so we would go to the gym, work out. Usually we'd get there about 7, but we had to be in the office by 8. And me and him, we shared this little office, and me and him are both loud. And so we would be making calls over each other the whole time. And so what would happen is I'm like, okay, 8:30, I'll be in the office at 8, but at 8:30 I have to be out knocking doors because I couldn't talk over him. And so from 8:30 to usually about 11, I was knocking doors. And I didn't care how many contact. At that point, I wasn't tracking my numbers very well. So
So
all I was
if I
trying to do
recall,
was
you weren't necessarily worried about the number of contacts you were making. You weren't worried
Mhm.
about the number of doors you knocked on. It was legitimately like meaningful conversations that you would have, and knocking those doors. And you said, look, I'm going to do this for 2.5 hours a day. And just for perspective, how many years, because I know it wasn't just 1 year you did this, because you were still doing it when you and I met for the first time. And that wasn't, a decade ago. And that was, you've been in this business a long time. So how many years did you follow a pretty rigid schedule of 8:30, 9 a.m. to 11 of knocking doors?
I would say for at least my first 10 to 12 years, that's all I did was just
Right. So
not.
don't you think there's these people, these agents who think they've graduated from that idea that, oh my gosh, I'm above door knocking. I mean, what do you mean door knocking? I mean, to that point, what encouragement would you give to the veteran agent or to the newer agent in regards to knocking doors today, or contacting people on the phone? Either way, I'm not concerned how they do that as long as they're contacting. But what counsel would you give to them? Encouragement would you give them?
Yeah, well, number one, it works. And all it is I mean, for me, I love knocking doors because I got to talk to new people every day face to face. And when you're talking to people over the phone, I feel like they don't get to see you. They don't get to interact with you. When you're knocking doors, it's almost like a weird, I don't even know what it is, but I love to do it. In fact, if I would go out today and knock doors, I'd be totally fine knocking doors today
Right.
because it's just so much fun. So
It is fun. Well, you're meeting people, right?
exactly. So I think a lot of it, your attitude just got to change. That's the biggest thing. If you want to do something, you can do it. You just got to apply yourself. And that's all I wanted. I kept telling kind of funny stories so I closed that first deal, and I told my wife, I said, I want $100,000 in my account by the end of this year. And we had zero, right? And I closed that deal. And my wife like laughed. She's like, no way. I'm like, I promise I'm going to do it. And by the end of that year, I had 100 grand in our account. And
Oh,
then
I didn't know that. I haven't heard that part of the story.
it was amazing. And I don't know how long it might have been, like 9 months or something like that, maybe 10 months. I can't remember where we were at in the year. But once I hit that, I wasn't coming home at 5 o'clock every night. I mean,
Right.
I was going out 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And I remember one night she says, well, how much do you have to have in your bank account to come home at 5 o'clock every night? And in my mind, I'm like, 300,000 would be great. And then I don't have to come home. And then I'll come home at 5. Well, she's like, okay, let's do it. Well, you hit that in a year or two or whatever it was. And she's like, so you're going to come home at 5? And I'm like, oh no, I can't do it. So I think a lot of it is you just get, I don't know, used to it and you like doing it. And when you do something you like, you get rewarded from it.
But when you were first, there's two things I want to address here. One, I love the fact that you're talking about you get used to something. So obviously, when you first started it wasn't like it was always smooth sailing. It wasn't like you gave perfect conversations. It wasn't like you totally knew what to say. You basically just went out and jumped into the lake or jumped into the pool and said, you know what? I'm going to do this, and I'm going to even figure it out as I go. Instead of what I see so many agents doing is, well, I need to know everything before I do anything. And well, if I don't know everything to say, well, then I can't do anything. And then, so they never go out and actually make the calls, and they never go out and actually do the things that need to do. And I think just humanity is we want to know everything before we do anything. So I have a saying that I've said for years, which is ready, fire, aim. Now, jokingly, now I have like, Danette Gramp and others who will laugh at me. You're not even ready, aim. You're like fire, get ready, aim. Because it's like, let's go. Come on, just like, let's go do this. And I think there's an important principle there is the fact that you didn't get stuck in thinking I have to have every single thing figured out before you jump on a phone or jump on and knock on a door.
Yeah. There was something that I learned back then too, and you might want to write down this quote if anybody's writing this stuff down. I had this on my wall, and I learned this from Bill Nasby because I'd knock doors, and I would knock 50 doors and maybe talk to one person or get the door slammed in my face, and you do get discouraged a little bit. Now when I knock doors, I hope that first person closes that door, because then I want to list every house on his block, right?
Right.
But what he told me to write down is, he says, write this down. He said, some will, some won't. Who cares? Who's next? And so I thought, oh my goodness, he's right. Like, not everybody's going to work with you. Like, and if they don't, who cares? Go to the next one. And
Well,
so
it's like the guy, I've always said this, it's like the guy who's selling roofs, right? New roofs. It'd be like, let's say they're on the phone or they're knocking doors. And it's almost like people get this emotional connection to, if someone says, no, I don't need your help, it would be like the roofer who says, they say, well, no, I don't need a new roof. And people go away, bawling, crying, thinking, oh my gosh, how could you not need a new roof? It'd be like, it's no different than an agent or who knocks on door and the person says, I don't need any help right now with buying a home. I don't need any help in buying an investment. I don't. And then somehow we find this obsession with emotionalizing and connecting to the no's. And so I've always said also, to that point of you're making, is that every no just gets me a little bit closer to that yes. And I started to track how many no's did I need to get before I would get the yes. And sometimes it was 20, 30, 50 no's, but I knew if I got 50 no's, I was that much closer to the yes.
oh yeah.
Hey, let me go ahead. Say on that.
I
There's one
think
very
a lot of
important
it
that
is,
you've talked about. I want to go back to.
do you not love the challenge though too? And I think that was ingrained in me as well. As I love a challenge, and when someone tells you can't do it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. And
Right.
so there was something in there, because when you first get in the business, I think a lot of you guys are in here, you have a lot of people that tell you cannot do it. I mean, when I got in, I thought for sure my family was going to hand me these deals. My dad was a general contractor. I'm like, I am set. Like, he's just going to hand me everything. Well, nobody trusted me because I never closed a deal. And so I never got referrals from family for probably a year or two. I was doing knocking doors and getting all my business off that. And then they're like, oh, he actually knows what he's doing. Now we'll send him stuff. And so you just gotta push those people away because they're not good for you. And just
Awesome, brother. Hey, Jesus, over there in California, our good buddy Landgren, he asked, just say it again. Some will, some won't.
who
Say your
cares?
quote. Who
Some
cares?
will, some won't. Who cares? Who's next?
Well, I like that. Who cares? Who's next? That's great, man. That's great. You said something very, very important. We get so obsessed in this business by, our rankings at times. We get obsessed with how many deals we've closed. We get obsessed with how much money we've earned. But you have hit a point that has been, I believe, in this business so forgotten. I go to any event, I don't care, any real estate event that I have gone to is never how much money have you saved, how much have you retained, how much have you invested. It's, hey, go put yourself in debt, that'll motivate you, which is about the most stupid mindset on the planet. Or, hey, how many homes did you sell? But no one ever asked the question, how much money did you retain? How much did you keep? How much did you save? How much did you invest? How many properties have you purchased? How many times are your taxes paid on time? Do you have no consumer debt? Have you paid off your home? Those are such better questions. And you said something very profound that right from the get-go, like, what inspired you to go say 100 grand, 300 grand? And just to be candid, I hope I'm not saying something I shouldn't. You can smack me in the head of it. But I remember when you and I sat down and you hit the $1 million mark. And you said, I have $1 million cash sitting here. And yet I know agents that have been in this business, Josh, you and I both know, you've been doing this a long time, man, who have been doing this a long time and have almost nothing economically to show for it and are always under that crisis, a decade in, 20 years in. So what inspired you to say, it's not how much I do, it's how much I keep? Because you are so good at that and have been such a good example for so many people to not just focus on how many homes or how much money I earned, how much did I keep? What inspired you to do that? Give us some counsel.
So it actually goes back to kind of my childhood. My dad made me buy everything. So if I wanted a car, I had to buy it. If I wanted a phone, I had to buy it. And at the time, I hated him for it because I'm like, all my friends are getting all these things and you're not buying anything for me. And I think that actually helped me out a ton. Now looking back, is that I saved everything that I had because I was so worried that I had to buy my next thing. And so, to be honest, a lot of it was from my dad. But the other thing is it came from my wife when I got married. Because when I got married, she was a big spender on clothes. She loved to buy clothes, loved it. And so me and her had to sit down.
Awesome.
I'm like, honey, I don't have any money. You can't buy clothes. Like, I'm sorry, I love you, but I like the clothes that you have. I still shop at Ross. I don't even. I love
I
Ross.
love
Every
it, dude.
once in a while Nike comes up, but Ross is my store right now, and it might show. I don't know, but I think.
You look great.
Thank you,
But
thank you.
there's a mind, but in fairness, I know we're making light of this, but there's a mindset to it, right? There's a
Yeah.
mindset of not always consuming, not always obsessing with your lifestyle, but how do I retain dollars? How do I save them? So if you have someone who's always spending everything they get, always going to the commission advances, or always going and trying to, are desperate for the next deal, and all of a sudden, if that deal doesn't happen, they're throwing stuff on their credit cards or their taxes aren't paid on time. How do you get someone out of that cycle, which so many agents are in?
Yeah, here's the thing. Do you want to live out of fear? I think that's the biggest thing for me is I don't. I still worry. You still worry. You can have $30 million in your account, and I think I would still worry a little bit just because for some reason I still worry about it. But it keeps pushing me to that next level. I think people it's like living paycheck to paycheck. You never want to do it. I would never want to do that again. I had nothing back then. And when I first started, and I told myself I will never do that again. But you have to change your mindset to what you want. And if you want something, you write it down. George, I love how you put everything on your back of your door in your closet. You put it on your mirror. I've done that for 10 years, and my wife thought I was crazy for doing it. But I remember writing down, I'll have 100 grand in my account. and it was on my closet door. Every time I get up, my wife's like, it's too lofty, but whatever. It's your thing, you know. But I think if you see it and then you watch your bank account, you're just going to keep throwing money in there because you want to hit that. You're not going to
How do
go
we
out.
get, how do you get past though the instant gratification? Like, and I've said this for years, if you can't save 10 cents from a dollar or $10 from $100, you aren't going to save $10,000 when you have $100,000.
Yeah.
How do you get someone, I mean, how do you get someone to get out of that idea that it has to be instant? Like they have to have the one, like, they'll be like, well, I'll save once I have all of these other things, but how do you get them? What counsel would you give them saying, what's the first step to saving? What would you tell them?
Oh man, that's tough because I think your first step to figure out what you want. I think
Okay.
that's your first step. So for me, I wanted 100 grand in my account. Um, and then I think that's the biggest thing. You want a car. Here's the thing. When you want a car, I feel like you lose so much money on cars, right? So mine was, I want 100 grand. And then the next one was, well, I already had all my cars paid off because I was so worried about debt. But I was always just thinking, what do I pay off next? That was my goal. What can I do to have financial freedom that when I'm 30, I don't have to worry about money anymore. When I'm 50, I can retire. When I'm 40, whatever your goal is.
Right.
So I think everybody's just got to
Great.
figure that out, you know?
Okay.
I don't
So
know.
let's switch gears. We've got just a few minutes left. So what counsel would you give? You have this amazing team. They do tons of business. You're doing 2, 3, 400 transactions a year over these last several years. What counsel would you give to any agent today with everything that's gone on, from the pandemic to the political crises, to people worried about their health, they're worried about their finances, they're worried about their personal freedoms, their constitutional rights? I mean, and each one of us are in different space in that arena, wherever we come from. What counsel would you give, like current today, that would be like, man, this is my counsel to you? If you had your best friend who was struggling, what would you tell him?
Man, I would tell you to be positive. You bring negative in and you're going to go downhill. I can promise you, and you can ask any of my guys, I am probably one of the most positive people you'll ever meet. And the reason for that is because I always think I can. I always think I can go to that next level. And so I think a lot of it is you got to surround yourself around good people. It's like I tell my guys this all the time is think of your kids. You want your kids, and even think of yourself when you grew up, the friends you hung out with. You know that if you hung around the wrong group, you were going to go down the wrong path, right? We're adults. It still does the same thing. I
I
mean,
I
I'm
agree,
40 years,
man.
well, I'm 38. And if I hang out with the wrong people, I'm going to go down the wrong path. So you got to set yourself up with the right people. And to be honest, George, when people come on my team, I I don't interview them to see how good I think they're going to be. I'm interviewing them to see if they're going to be a good fill and a good fit for our team. Because I can
A good
mold,
vibe, a good energy, a good
yeah,
attitude, right?
yeah, because I can mold anybody to what you want to be. You just got to have the willingness and the attitude to do it.
Love that. I love that. That's fantastic. Uh, what do you listen to? What are you reading? What are you watching that you think, hey, man, this would be something I would tap into if I were you?
Um, so I haven't been reading that much because all this politics stuff. I'm probably too deep in
Sure.
that now. But
Okay.
my I will say this. I'm listening to How to Be a Great Boss or How to Be an Amazing Boss. And it's a good book right now.
And
And
that's
then
by,
I can't
oh
remember.
gosh, that's the guy who wrote Rocket Fuel.
Yes.
And the, oh my goodness gracious,
How
the
to Be a
EOS
Great
system.
Boss. What's his name? I
Give me
can't
his
remember
name.
his name.
How
Oh,
to Be a
Keith
Great
Woodman.
Boss, Rocket Fuel, and then there's the other one, his original book. Those 3
Yeah.
books in his series.
Yeah. So I've been reading those. Those have been way good. But right now I'm on How to Be a Great Boss. Just in case I'm sliding down a little, I got to.
You know what, though? That's a great book. And so is Rocket Fuel, man. Those 2 books, and why I cannot remember. Maybe someone will throw it up on a chat who might remember the other one. But that guy has some great, great stuff of just,
Yeah.
again, being a visionary and then being the architect, one being the architect, and really building something that's going to last the test of time. So that's great,
Yeah.
brother. Hey, I appreciate everything. Oh yeah, Gino Wickman. There we go. I knew someone would throw it up
And
there for us.
let me say something just real quick. Sorry, George. So last year we were number 2. We were right behind Dave. I love Dave. If he's on here, I'll still plug in. We're okay. I don't know where we're ranked at this year, but I do want to say this. So during this pandemic, I do what's called a $1 million club. So in the $1 million club, you have to close $1 million worth of sales, and then we go to Rodizio or go somewhere to eat.
Sure.
Every month, I normally have 6 to 8, maybe 9 every month or every quarter, right? This quarter, I have 15 or 16 of my guys that made the $1 million club this month or this
So they
quarter.
sold $1 million worth of real estate in that 90-day period.
Exactly.
That's
And
awesome.
we just did that
Tell them
yesterday. And I'm
congrats.
like, oh my goodness, they are during
You might be taking them
everything
to
that's going on.
Jimmy John's or Subway. It's going to be an expensive ticket.
I actually told them I'm taking them to McDonald's this time. It's not going anywhere nice.
Of course you did.
They didn't like it though, but we'll see what happens. They're gonna love it when a Big Mac sits up there and they're eating that.
All right, brother. Hey, I love you to death, man. And just thank you for everything you do, man. The contribution you make, you always bring such a great energy, a great light to the company. And you really are a great leader. And with even all of our jesting and kidding around, man, you're a great example to me. You're a great example to this entire company. I hope you truly know how much I appreciate our friendship. And frankly, the fact that you're willing to take your time, your energy, knowing how much money you truly earn, that you're willing to contribute back to helping the people who are trying to take their business to the next level. So, Josh, thank you for everything, truly.
No, thank you, George. It's been great. We love it here. Love it.
All right, brother. Yeah, I love your new digs and where you guys are. And man, I'm excited for everything. You guys are I think you're just getting started. So you got even greater things coming down the pipeline. So it's going to be great.
Thank you.
Okay, brother. All right, we're going to jump into some closing affirmations. And Josh, thanks again. And let's roll with our affirmations.